Welcome back to another episode of For the Love of Lore. I am Austin, your co-host for today's adventure.
And I'm Abby. We are so glad you're here.
Today in Middle-earth, we will learn about the Battle of Unnumbered Tears.
And over in Westeros, we are getting a proper introduction to the Kingdom of Dorne and its ruling family, House Martell.
So, grab a flagon of ale and let's go on an adventure. Welcome back, adventurers, to another episode of For the Love of Lore. Today, we got some big subjects today, but before we really dive in, I want to do a little check-in with my sis over here.
We're gonna dip our toe before we dive.
A little zip in the cell. How you doing, Abby?
I've been great, busy. I had my birthday weekend, so I'm officially at the back of my 30s.
What do you mean you're 25?
Right, I'm 29 always. 29 forever. No, it's weird being like 37 feels like, oh geesh, I gotta like get my stuff together now.
Yeah. I mean I'm only 28, but it feels like with 30 approaching I gotta get my stuff together.
Yeah.
It's a scary thought.
Yeah. But it's finally hopefully gonna start feeling like fall next week. The Midwest has been rough times for those who love fall.
And I am one of those people.
Me too. And it's been like 90 degrees. We've had like record-breaking heat. And so I'm all done with that. I'm ready for
all
some...
of my sweaters and pants are just in my closet.
I know.
Frowny facing at me because I
Exactly.
haven't brought them out yet. I'm like, I'm coming.
We're trying real hard.
That is where I thrive, is sweater weather. I can't do it yet because it's hot as balls out there.
I would like winter to be coming, okay?
Same. We do a little sand volleyball league every Thursday, and like,
ooh, that's probably hot.
It is like we should be at the point of the year of sand volleyball where it feels good at night. But last week it was 88 and humid at 7 p.m. and I'm like, where are we?
Right.
So I'm getting sick of it.
Gross.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because I did this week. My episode is on Dorne, and so maybe
you brought the sands.
I cursed
you brought the
it.
sands to Illinois. It's also because these battles take place in the dunes also. So, man, we really brought.
We sure did.
It's our fault.
That's what we should have made the title of this episode, The Dunes.
Dunes.
But no, okay, so there has been some Game of Thrones news of late. I think I talked about this in the last episode that aired. The show A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, which is about Dunk and Egg.
Yes.
I knew they had filmed it, and I knew it was in production. I thought we weren't going to get it till like 2027. They just said sometime in January of 26.
What?
Yeah.
Like soon?
So like soon, yeah. They want it to be their big January show.
What happened to House of Dragon season 3?
That's coming next summer, I think.
So we get a double dip of GOT next year?
Yeah.
That's pretty sick.
I know.
Which we need, because we haven't had it. When's the last time House of Dragons was on? Was it 24?
Yeah, I think it's been 2 years.
Jeez.
Or it will have been 2 years. Yeah.
I miss Westeros so much.
Like good Westeros,
yeah,
too.
like, I think House of Dragons season 1 was really good. 2 is their COVID season, and it still had good elements, I think, too.
Yeah.
People like to hate because they like to hate, but I still enjoyed season 2.
And I think, I mean, I already knew a lot of the lore, but like diving into a lot of this lore helps make House of the Dragon make more sense because they had so much more information to go off of compared to the later seasons of Game of Thrones. So I think maybe sometimes they have the opposite problem. They had so much information, it was hard to squeeze it into a TV show. But like knowing some of the background stuff, I think helps. Yes,
I do think they thrive better when they have the material there than when there's not as much material as we saw with the last few seasons of Game of Thrones. But yeah. I'm really excited for Dunk and Egg. What's it called? Night of the Seven Kingdoms?
A Night of the Seven Kingdoms.
And I know we've talked a little bit about the plot of what it's going to be, but I know it affects... I think the small story of Dunk and Egg together is going to be fun, but I think the grander scheme of like the power moves and the political moves happening behind the scenes is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, and now that now that House of the Dragon has added the whole like Aegon having a prophecy of ice and fire and all that, like I think that's going to carry through because this is kind of Dunk and Egg is kind of an in between of like where House of the Dragon ends and Game of Thrones begins. It's kind of, we're right sandwiched in there.
That's going to be sweet.
So, yeah.
Dang, that's awesome news.
I know, I'm excited.
It's rad. Can we have it now? Was it January yet?
January is your birthday time.
I know.
We just got done with my birthday time. Now we got to talk about yours.
I hit 29. Oh boy.
The actual 29.
Yes.
Not like how I'm just always.
So I figure if it's 29 and golden birthday, I stay 29 forever, right?
That's
how that
right.
works.
That's exactly how it works.
Okay, right. I won't even worry about 30 then.
No.
But that's awesome. I'm really excited for that. And there is a little bit of Rings of Power news in the Amazon world, in that it sounds like Amazon's pulling budget a little bit. So that's bad news. But I'm kind of hoping that
we're going to watch it anyway.
We are, and I kind of hope that it seems like after Amazon kind of gets over its trial into the Tolkien lore, that they'll give up the rights again. And I just pray to the gods above HBO decides to pick it up, because they were the top 3 contenders. I mean, it was Amazon, HBO, and Netflix, and I did not want Netflix to get it. I figured Amazon was better than Netflix, but I don't know if Amazon's established themselves enough in the production world to make something like it. It's a big undertaking. I got to give them credit. And you're going after a franchise that is so beloved and was done, obviously I'm biased, but was done so well with the first 3 movies that
with Peter Jackson.
Yeah, with Peter Jackson, you got a tough crowd to please there, but I still think they could have done some things better. But we'll see.
We digress.
Yeah, we digress. I think for me, my personal news is really just, it affects both of us. We got our brother's wedding coming up.
We do indeed.
Oh
yes.
my! Well, wedding season as a whole is upon us. I got Alex's wedding. I've got another wedding with Bryn in LA the weekend after that.
Okay.
And then for work, we're also doing flowers and florals for a ton of weddings coming up. So it's just going to be, I guess love is in the air, and I wish the crisp air was also in the air, but it is not.
Should be here soon. But yeah, our brother's wedding should be fun. It's like Lord of the Rings light.
Yes.
Like
it's Diet Lord of the Rings.
Diet, yeah, there you go. Diet Lord of the Rings.
It's going to be fun though. I'm really excited.
But with your pinky up. Like it's like the fancy.
It's a little bougie.
It's bougie,
because our company is supplying the plants, and we have picked out some interesting looking plants to make us kind of feel like we're in the Fangorn forest almost.
Okay.
So it'll be fun.
I just like my son, he's 6 and he's the ring bearer. And so I was like, should I get him like a little hobbit cloak?
Can we get him a cloak and get him like a fairy feet?
Should he put the ring around a chain on his neck?
The answer is all yes. Kenny will save us all from Sauron.
Yep.
But yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a good end of the year. Speaking of end, I also did want to talk about this episode. So in my infinite wisdom, I did not realize that I am actually pretty close to the end of the Silmarillion.
Well, that's exciting.
What I overlooked that the back 3/4 of the book is there is still one thing after the end of Silmarillion I'm going to cover from the book that I have that Abby got me. It covers the fall of the Númenóreans, which is kind of what Rings of Power is about, actually. So it's going to be some spoilers for that, and I will put spoiler warnings all over those episodes. So that is another good chunk of the Silmarillion too, is talking about that. So that's probably one mega episode for me. And then there's another short chapter that kind of recaps the Lord of the Rings in like 6 pages, which is interesting. But he did throw some nuggets in there that weren't actually in the book. So I'll cover those. And then I think my plan after that is I'm going to do a deep dive on appendices.
Appendices.
Yes, there's a big thing in Tolkien lore that we know he loves to throw in appendices in all 3 of the Lord of the Rings books that have a lot of nuggets of what's basically going on in the wider world of Lord of the Rings. So I think at some point in this podcast, I would love to do a deep dive on the Lord of the Rings story from the book perspective. I think we all know the movie perspective well enough. I think I want to do a deep dive on the books. But before I get to that, I kind of want to cover what's going on outside of the Lord of the Rings story, because as Frodo's taking the ring to Mordor, there's battles going on in the north and the south, west with the dwarves, east with the dwarves, west, the elves are starting to leave. Like, I want to talk about all that stuff too. So that's kind of my trajectory.
All the moving parts.
Yes, and I know Game of Thrones lore is kind of, and also a bottomless pit. I think both of these.
I could go for years.
Both of these IPs have a lot of history to them, and so after I do that, the appendices. I think you got it for me, actually. It was the Tales of Tolkien. It's its own separate book.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do some Tales of those, which is just basically deep diving on certain characters and some things that they go through. So that's kind of my path. But we are nearing the end of the Silmarillion, and honestly, I got a little, as our mother says, I got a little verklempt today.
Oh boy, that's the word I
Yep.
thought you were gonna say as soon as you said mom.
It was just kind of sad because I was like, we've put so much time and energy into breaking down this book, and that's like, you guys have maybe 3 episodes left with the book before we really wrap up the story. So I made me a little sad today.
Look at us go, yeah.
But we've done a lot of lore. My
We
goodness, there's a lot of names that I will probably forget myself because we went through so many. But I will say, here's my honest opinion of this book from a Tolkien fan. It's a slog. Don't get me wrong. Like at the beginning's fun because you learn about the creation, what everybody's about. Middle, whew, that was rough at points because there wasn't as much action going on. But I feel like these last episode with Baron and Luthien, and then from here on, there's a lot going on, and I'm really excited to talk about it. So I do still think it's worth a read for you casual fans just to learn a lot about behind the scenes. But I am unbiased. I will tell you that the middle of the book is a bit of a slog, but I think it's still worth it. So I think without further ado, you right if I hop in?
Let's do it.
Okay, so this will be a rather longer episode for Austin over here as I pulled an Abby and I really went full script mode here and I just wrote down just about every thought that came into my head. Oh. I wonder... Hold on, Trev, we have technical issues with the mouse. We're so back.
There she goes.
I went full Abby mode, and I'm sorry I wrote so much, Abby. I apologize.
Don't apologize. That's what we're here for.
We are gonna attack this thing. So
do it.
Before I really dive into this pivotal battle, Tolkien does kind of give us a snippet of what happens to Baron and Luthien after, because as I mentioned last time, technically they died, but then they were granted life again for what their sacrifice and everything. So after gaining new life, they do return to Doriath, and everyone was kind of equally glad. But Tolkien mentions they were like a little fearful to see them, because they're glad because like their love conquered all, even the darkest creature, yada yada yada. But they were fearful of what is to come for these two, and the people were fearful of the elves because the elves are used to being immortal. They're used to living forever, and like whenever they're ready to kind of go to peace, they just sail to Valinor. Now that they're both mortal, everybody's a little like, okay, like how does their story end now? Because they don't know what's going to happen to Luthien after she passes because she's an elf. And elves typically don't go to heaven like the humans do. Baron is chilling because he's a man, so he'll go up to the halls of Ardos and he'll be fine. But what's going to happen to Luthien? So everybody's like a little, it's like that wedding where you're excited for him, but you're a little worried about him. It's one of those. It's like, oh, we're happy for you, but like, are you gonna be okay? So
okay.
Melian the Maya, she's one of the great queens. She is kind of like Gandalf. She is a Maiar.
She's her mom, right?
Yes. She knows this was a goodbye harder than any other because Luthien did give up her mortality to be with Baron, and that means she could not return to Valinor to live peacefully forever. So no one really knew what was going to happen. And as I just said, Baron's soul is going to go to the halls of Maedhros and he'll be fine, but Luthien, we don't know. So Melian, when she sees Luthien again, she can actually see the pain in Luthien's eyes because Luthien also is aware of this. But that doesn't mean it's a bad end. We just don't know what's going to happen. So Luthien does hide this pain from others, but as a mother knows their daughter, she could sense some pain there. So Baron and Luthien kind of decide to leave Doriath and kind of pass beyond the river Galleon, and they dwelt in Tol Galen. After some time passes, the land is renamed Dorf. Oh God, here we go. Dorf Fern Aeginar. I totally said that right. In normal speech, that is the land of the dead that live. So I think that's it's
a mouthful.
It is a mouthful. But after these two leave and kind of go live, quote unquote, happily ever after, no man or elf ever speaks to those two again. And their final resting place is unknown. So we never know what really happens to Luthien. The dream is that she also got to go up to the halls of Maedhros for her sacrifice, but who knows? So uncertain, but also it's one of those weird like happy endings, but you're itching for a little more because like what happened?
Yeah.
So that's kind of where Tolkien leaves it, and I really don't have an answer for you, but now we begin.
Okay.
We begin one of the most tragic and pivotal battles in all of the First Age. It is the Nerniath Arnoedad. I forget. I mess this up every time. I watch 4 different YouTube videos on how to pronounce this.
Arnoediad?
Yeah. Arnoediad. Which translates to the Battle of Unnumbered Tears. So that I'm going to refer to it as the Battle of Unnumbered Tears from here on because I cannot pronounce that for the life of me. I practice so much and I still can't do it. But as you can kind of tell, the name foreshadows the despair that will follow. So let's set the scene. So we have Maedhros, son of Fëanor, preparing for war against Morgoth because of the example Beren and Luthien gave them before they passed, is that Morgoth is not unassailable. He can be beaten. But Maedhros knew that the only chance was to unite all of the people of Beleriand under one banner to fight against him. So he begins to hold some councils and some leagues. He invites elves from all over the land and men and dwarves alike. As right before we enter the Third Age, they had the Battle of Last Alliance, which is all of the peoples of Middle Earth. This is kind of that first example of everybody coming together to fight against one enemy.
Okay.
This council is called the Union of Maedhros. And even though his intentions were good behind this council, this is where that theme of the curse of his father Fëanor still kind of looms heavy. So the strongest elf kingdom is Norgothrond, once led by Finrod, and then now it's led by Orodreth, because remember Finrod bit the bullet against that wolf. And he refused to kind of get any help with Son of Fëanor in his treacherous deeds. So Norgothrond's like, nope, Fëanor's cursed, I'm not helping him. We luckily have Gwyndor, son of Gwilyn, come in, and he takes a small host of elves from Norgothrond, and he leads them to Fingon, and they march under his banner. Because, yes, the king of Norgothrond is kind of saying no, but obviously there's going to be some people who disagree and say, like, no, let's go beat this evil, let's get rid of it, let's be done with it, and then we can live in peace. So Gwyndor does rustle up a good size of elves. He says about 4,000 in the book, but Norgothrond is powerful enough. They have about 25,000 troops there, so you do have a good amount left behind, which is, you'll see the repercussions of that. But 4,000 is nothing to scoff at, especially in terms of elves who are all good fighters. But yeah, these people took a stand and said, we're not going to stand idle as Morgoth's terror continues to reign. So the unfortunate part about this company of elves that does decide to leave in honor is that only one elf will ever return of the 4,000. So a bit of a tragic end, but a noble sacrifice. So Doriath, as a kingdom, decides to send little aid as well. Thingol just really does not trust any words of the Sons of Fëanor either, especially being tied to the Silmarils and all the darkness that he has brought upon the land. And this kind of harkens back to the theme I mentioned during Fëanor's time of how his words and oath would echo through the ages, because that one oath is costing the elves trust in the most dire of times. Some of that is due to the deception of the Silmarils poisoning Thingol's mind, kind of like much like the One Ring would do.
Yeah.
Because deep in his heart, Thingol does desire to keep the Silmaril above all else. And Maedhros swore Thingol and his people would die if they were to return alive from the Battle of Morgoth. So Maedhros is basically like, Thingol, you're screwing me over. I'm so pissed at you that if we win this thing and we somehow survive, I'm coming back and I'm killing you. Like it's that intense of a relationship between these two.
And Thingol has a Silmaril.
He does. He has one of the 3 Silmarils
because of Beren.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's corrupting Thingol. Maedhros is tied to the Silmaril, so it's making him upset. And it's to the point where these once friends are now butting heads and saying that they will kill each other if they see each other again. So another tragic kind of story there. So Thingol does decide to fortify his cities with thousands. I mistyped here. He did only send 4,000 to aid Maedhros, which is not a lot in terms of how big this battle is going to be. So what really kind of shifted hope for Maedhros here was actually the aid of men from houses Bor and Ulfang. So these houses are more eastern, because we do have, we'll talk about them later here, the 3 great houses of men that live in the west already. We'll discuss them here shortly, but we have men from the east now coming to help too, because the one map we post on Instagram, you can kind of see the formations of where orcs are spreading, and it's getting really bad in the east. So it's at the point where now the men of the East are like, if we're uniting under one banner to finish this thing, we're coming too. So this really lifted the heart of Maedhros because he was feeling a little down after not getting the help he needed to from his own people. So they trained these leagues of men for war over the coming months, and as they were doing this, the dwarven smithies of Nogrod and Belagast prepared weapons of steel and mithril for the large host of men and elves. And then another shining light comes in the form of Fingon of Noldor, and he also comes to the aid with leagues of elves and men from the houses of Hador. And Hador is one of those 3 great houses of men in the West that they decide to come and help too. So at this point, Maedhros is feeling a little more confident, like, okay, people are coming together. We got dwarven weapons, which are the best in the land. And I forgot to write it down, but they also do have a host of dwarves coming from Belagos as well. We have men. We have Fingon and his army coming here because Fingon is at this point considered the king of the Noldor. So he's like, okay, maybe things are going okay. But as you know, this is coordinating a lot of people, a lot of men, a lot of elves to a great full-scale battle, and the plans just were not ready yet. And Maedhros kind of made a critical mistake, and he did not take Pippin's most important advice of don't be hasty.
Like Merry and Pippin?
Yes. That is Pippin's. He always says, don't be hasty. That's what Gandalf always tells him.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So Maedhros got a little hasty, and he did strike out at the orcs, and he did reclaim all the north of Beleriand, which is good. You got your land back. And this did include the lost city of Dorthonion, which is literally the city that faces the 3 great mountains of volcano. So a good win, a good defensive position. But the victory was at great cost, not in number, but in secrecy of their mission. So Morgoth now is aware of the size and the mass of the insurrection of the elves, men, and dwarves, and immediately starts to kind of devise their doom. So this is where Maedhros really done messed up, because you had all these people assembling. Morgoth really was not aware that this big of a unifying banner was being made. And because he got a little greedy and wanted that city of Dorthonion back first, the secrecy is now gone, and Morgoth can kind of prepare. So he starts to devise his doom. His first action is to actually send spies and workers of treason into the scores of legions of elves and men. And most of these spies were not like, orcs or ghouls spying in the shadows. It was actually corrupted men. So think about great scores and leagues of men. It's going to be pretty tough to find.
Right, to tell who's a
bad guy, who's just a man taking a banner and arms to fight against Morgoth. So a good move by Morgoth to kind of pick information to see what they're up to. And Fingon and Maedhros, so after Morgoth does this, some time passes. Fingon and Maedhros have been having a lot of meetings, and they finally kind of devise a plan to defeat Morgoth. So they know in open pitch battle between the 2 large armies, it would be ugly. Sure, they may win, but it would come at great death to their people. So instead, they kind of decided to split their armies in 2. And they wanted to make Morgoth decide which fight he wanted to take. So Maedhros would kind of strike for the great evil city of Angband from the east. And then, east is this hand. And then Maedhros would strike for the great... Did I say the same city twice? Nope, I lost my place. And then Fingon would take his host to Thangaradrim, which is the 3 volcano mountains, from the west, and kind of make Morgoth pick which way does he want to go, which army does he want to take on, while the other can move in and take one of these 2 strongholds from Morgoth and kind of stake claim to the north. And the plan was that basically once one of the hosts of good guys knew where the attack was going to take place, a great beacon was going to be lit from Dorthonion, the reclaimed city that kind of sits in the middle of them, to let each army know where the battle is commencing. And on the appointed morning that they agreed that attack would get carried out, Fingon kind of looked towards Thangaradrim and noticed kind of a dark cloud and dark smoke rising from it. And this was kind of his sign that, okay, Morgoth has taken the bait. And he knew the challenge was accepted. So Fingon readies his men and his elves, and he looks east for a sign of Maedhros that he is coming to his aid, but sees nothing. So, to his surprise, though, another good rallying of men here. 10,000 elves from Gondolin come to battle clad in heavy armor and ready to help the people of Middle-earth conquer the day. So, before I continue, Gondolin it's a hidden city. It is kind of taking over as the most powerful elven city, and for them to kind of come out of hiding to help is a big deal. And they are also known for how their armor, their weapons, and how good their soldiers are. So this is a huge boost for Fingon, and it kind of gives him that hope of, okay, if Maedhros is delayed, we might be okay. But Morgoth, seeing the Gondolin men come, it strikes no fear into him. His only goal is to not let the two major armies unite. So Morgoth sends a minor force of orcs out to try to draw Fingon into battle. And this horde of orcs is said to look greater in number than they really are. And Fingon can kind of recognize this and say, something's off. Like, he wouldn't just send orcs out in an open pitch battle against our walls like this, especially in such a few number. Like, we think he's hiding more in there, but we're not sure. And Fingon, being wise as he is, did not take the bait. But he can tell his soldiers are getting a little antsy for a fight. But he knows...
Can't be hasty.
Cannot be hasty. But their defensive position is strong. But the extra reinforcements kind of gave the soldiers false hope that they could vanquish this enemy that they see before them in open pitch pretty hurriedly and win the day. And we thankfully have another person who has common sense and a brain, Hurin. And this is important because I'm going to throw a spoiler warning out there. We are now diving into spoiler territory for the book called Children of Hurin. Now, this battle is basically the first chapter of that book.
Okay.
But I want to throw that out there for everybody. Please read this book. It is a very good book. And the whole next episode is a spoiler for the whole book. So I will also throw that out there when I talk about it. But anyways, Hurin, a great man, a leader, and a great swordsman who also has common sense, advises Fingon against charging. So Fingon and his elves did not take the bait, and they stayed behind their strong walls. They are at the castle Ethel Sirion, which is at the end of the river Sirion, which actually flows through Gondolin, and it flows through OG Minas Tirith. Now, I don't know if you remember this castle. It's from the third movie. It's the big white city. That is actually Minas Tirith V2. Some people don't know that. The original Minas Tirith was in the north. We will talk about what happens to it in the next episode, actually. But this castle is on a river, so not only are the orcs don't like water because it's purity, so it's got a river defending it, but it also has massive walls defending it. So Fingon knows that, like, we should not leave because in here we ain't gonna lose.
Right.
So the orcs do cross the river, and it gets to a point where in the book Tolkien says that the elves can actually look in the eyes of the orcs from their positions, and it does make you want to go out and just vanquish your enemy, but they did still hold fast.
That's good.
So the orcs, in their desperation, brought out a token of parley. And it's not just any token. They actually brought out Gelmir, son of Gwilyn, who is Gwyndor's brother. And just to recap, Gwyndor was the princeling of Norgothrond who defied the king and said, no, we got to do something about this. I'm bringing my guys to Fingon. We're going to fight.
Yeah.
So the orcs held Gelmir, which is Gwyndor's brother, before them, and it was clear that he had been tortured and he actually had been blinded by a sword cut across his eyes. And then just to kind of try to egg someone on, or to egg Gwyndor on, they cut off Gelmir's hands, his feet, and then finally his head.
Oof.
So as this goes, unfortunately, Gwyndor was in the front row. He was in the front lines and saw all this take place. And much like Fëanor, a fire grew in his heart, and he sounded the charge. Without consulting anybody, he blew the horn and took his 4,000 men in charge straight at the orcs. Fingon feared this, but he knew, due to his honor, he couldn't leave Gwyndor behind. So he did sound the trumpets of his men, and his charge began as well. And in a good victory, Fingon and Gwyndor did drive the orcs all the way back to Angband in a glorious routing. But as Hurin and Fëanor, or as Hurin and Fingon can kind of tell, something's afoot. This was too easy. Something's not right. And it is all playing into Morgoth's hands. So the anger of Gwyndor could not be restrained, and they burst through the gates of Angband and actually slew the guards upon the stairs and the walls and were claiming victory. And they were chasing the orcs all the way back into the keep, all through the halls. And it was such a great charge that even Morgoth trembled himself because they made it to his throne room and were banging on the doors of the throne. And although fear took him for a moment, Morgoth was prepared for this. So Angband inside is a bit of a maze, especially the halls of Morgoth, and this is on purpose. So I think it was a couple episodes now, I talked about how his throne room is called the Halls of Doom. It is called that because of this exact battle. It's because he made such a maze to get to his throne room that the halls either seemed to go on forever or others ended abruptly in darkness at a dead end. And when Gwyndor, through his great charge all the way to the throne room, looked back, Fingon and his legions were gone. So only Gwyndor and his small company, his now small depleted company, remained. And now it was pretty clear what Morgoth's plan was, and he unleashed the full might of his force. So unfortunately, all were slain in those halls except for Gwyndor, and he was taken captive. And Fingon, who was still fighting outside in the courtyard of Angband, could hear the cries of all the elves getting slain inside. And he knew that he needed to retreat because it's not worth it, and this is playing exactly into Morgoth's hands.
Right.
So Fingon and Hurin do take their men and they retreat back into the desert plains, but this battle does continue for 4 days straight. And on the 5th day begins what the battle is called. It begins the Unnumbered Tears. For no song or tale can contain all of its grief. So Fingon and his troops are continually pushed back. Haldir, Lord of the Halidin, which is the second great house of men in the west, was slain, and with most of the men of Brethel being the third house of great men. So almost all the great houses of men of the west is depleted. Fingon is completely surrounded by orcs at this point, but hope still remains in that 10,000 leagues of Gondolin elves and Turgon sound their horns from the south. And they rush the formation of orcs. It's pretty epic because in the book, it's much like in the third movie when Rohan rides all those horses into the line of elves. It's much the same for Gondolin. They're all on horseback. They charge in, break the line of orcs, and Turgon, Fingon, and Hurin all reunite in the middle and kind of take a second and be like, okay, what do we do now? The orcs are breaking. We've kind of reset. We've lost a lot, but the day's not over. And as the tides start to turn for the good again, we finally hear the horn of Maedhros, and full hope is kind of restored in the hearts of the elves because now Maedhros we're talking, this is basically half the army, is now on their way to help too.
Okay.
So in this moment, Tolkien says even the hearts of the Eldar begin to think that they can win this day, despite all the death and loss. But as we know, Morgoth always be plotting. He is always one step ahead. He always knows what's coming next. And this is when he unleashes his beasts of Angband. So at first, it's all been orcs, clad in armor, ready to fight, but now come the beasts. He unleashes his wolves, his wolf riders, his balrogs, his dragons, and even Glaurung, father of dragons himself. And Glaurung, yes, he is... We did talk about him two episodes ago. Yes, he is mighty in battle, but he's also called Silver-Tongued because he can corrupt the hearts of men and elves alike. So he is great and he is terrible, and he did strike fear into the hearts of men and elves. And in a desperate attempt, the Great Worm put himself between Maedhros and Fingon's troops, and he kept them apart single-handedly. So at this moment, yes, it's looking bleak, but the armies are closer together, and it still feels like they could win this day. But the last treachery of Morgoth is kind of revealed. And Ulfang, one of the great kings from the East of Men, aiding Maedhros in the battle in the rear, sounds his own horn, and his men actually begin to slay the elves and the men alike.
So he's like plotting against...
Yes,
this is like
so the
Red
spies
Wedding.
that Morgoth sent out got to the ear of Ulfang the king, and Morgoth kind of promised him the kingdom of Dorthin, or the city of Dorthinion, for himself if they win this battle.
Okay.
So Ulfing took the bait. He agreed to work for Morgoth. And the plan was, as soon as they're all kind of together, Ulfing sounds his horn and his men begin to kill elves and the other good men alike. And this kind of creates a massive confusion because Ulfing, with that horn, summoned more men who were hiding in the trees north and east, sorry. So now Maedhros' men are surrounded on all sides, and the elves are kind of like a little bit dumbfounded because they're like, what men are good, what men are bad, who's helping us, who's not, and it just is straight chaos. So now Maedhros, it is not looking good for his men, and it was just a pure bloodbath. And even though Ulfing was slain, all the other great kings of men were also slain because we don't know who's working for who.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know who's corrupt, who's not. And it is just a horrible bloodbath, and that's kind of where the name of the battle comes from, is that it is just elves and men, their relationship just ultimately falling apart in what should have been their unifying moment.
Right.
So as things are going bad, it keeps getting worse.
Mm-hmm. When it rains, it pours.
Yep, it is certainly pouring at this point, because now we have Gothmog, Lord of the Balrogs, come out for the battle as well. And he comes for Fingon's forces, and he also attacks them from there with another great host of orcs that are his own. And now, once again, Fingon is surrounded on all sides, just as he cleared them. And he's got the Gondolin men sitting next to him who are on horseback. And obviously, horses aren't very useful if you're not charging. If you're standing in place, there's really not much good they can do. So they are now surrounded again. And Gothmog takes upon himself basically to push right through the rear lines of the elves. He throws Turgon and Hurin aside, and he casts his great axe straight into the helm of Fingon, and that is where the High King of Noldor falls. So, and even after Fingon falls, Gothmog and his orcs continue to beat his body into the dirt with their maces, and just kind of trying to demoralize the...
Literally beat a dead horse.
Yes. The elven army is feeling quite demoralized at this point, watching their great king get bashed into the ground. So with this great loss, Hurin and Fingon kind of share a look, and that they know that the day is lost and they need to retreat. So Hurin calls Turgon and tells him to take his forces back to Gondolin and regather their strength, because Morgoth still doesn't know where the kingdom is. He doesn't know where the city is. So Hurin kind of tells Turgon, go, I'll hold back the tide of orcs, but get your guys out of here, reset, so we can come back and fight another day. And Turgon reluctantly agrees. Obviously it's hard to call it quits, especially on such a rough day. But he does call the retreat, and him and his men disappear into the mountains with men and a couple of great elves like Glorfindel and Ecthelion, who are huge players in Lord of the Rings. This is them in their younger days. But while men and a couple of great elves like these two hold the flanks. And as the elves kind of fled, the men held back the foes of orcs, and many died, unfortunately, and this great deed is the only thing that restored the trust in men after the great betrayal of Ulfang. So Hurin stood with the rear guard of a few elves and men, and was at last captured by Gothmog and dragged as prisoner into Angband. And this kind of marks the end of the Battle of Unnumbered Tears. And it came not only a great loss, but it also just created an emotional divide between men and elves that will last all the way through the Third Age.
I say kind of forever.
Yes. So after this time, the only trusted houses of men were the three houses of the Edain that I was talking about before, which is Beor, Halidin, which is almost entirely wiped out at this point, and Hador. And Hador is the one who helped them cover their escape. So that is the only trust that remains, but these are the houses that do lead eventually down to the lines of Aragorn and the Númenóreans and alike. So they are good men, but the ones who betrayed eventually become the Haradrim and Easterlings that live out in the east that help Sauron in the Third Age.
Yeah, because they're this is just because I'm a casual movie fan mostly. I read the books, but I'm mostly a movie fan. So like when Frodo and Sam like fall down the little side of the mountain, and then he throws his cloak and they magically look like rocks, it's weird.
Yeah.
But those like human looking things with all the eye shadow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Those are men. And those are the Easterlings that you see in that scene. Those are the descendants of Ulfang, who are then corrupted for the rest of time and work under whatever dark force is out and about right there, because they're not old, they're not inherently bad, but they're mercenaries. They work for money. Whoever pays the most, they're going to work for. They really just care about themselves. So, a very unfortunate battle for the forces of good. I really encourage you guys to go and read this chapter. It took me 2 weeks to really recap this whole thing, because it's long, yes, but it's also a very good read, very emotional, and I think worth a read for any Tolkien fan. But the end of this battle, yes, it does end the House of Fingon and the Sons of Fëanor. Sorry, it doesn't end that. Sons of Fëanor. The House of Fingon's done. The Noldorians are kind of kingless. They don't know what to do. They kind of wander the lands from here on and join other little elven kingdoms, but the Noldorians are kind of quote unquote done after this, and the Sons of Fëanor are beaten, dismayed. They kind of leave, and they're gone, as Tolkien describes it, the leaves before the wind. So Maedhros does live, but he's bloodied, he's cut, he's kind of lost in what to do, and they kind of wander the woods, not knowing what their next steps are. So after this, Morgoth kind of has open reign, unfortunately, on the forces of good. His terror spreads south. Many cities are sacked, and even it gets as far west as what is known as the Grey Havens in the Lord of the Rings. Right now they're just called the Havens. But they make it as far west as that, and they start to destroy the ships so that the elves can't go to Valinor anymore, kind of trapping them in Middle-earth. And even the great boat builder Círdan, who is in Rings of Power, fun fact, was cast from his castle, and he even had to go into hiding. So no new boats were being made, no one can really leave. And this was all part of Morgoth's plan of, if you're going to fight against me, I'm going to trap you here, and we're going to fight till the end. So elves, men, and dwarves alike are just all broken and sent into hiding for a good amount of time. The only note here is basically, we have Morgoth, who is very happy about the great victory, but there is still something that's angering him, and that is not being able to capture Turgon or find the secret city of Gondolin. He's not too worried about it, but, it's a secret threat that is still on his mind, and he knows that Turgon was a great friend of Fingolfin, who was able to wound Morgoth, and this just bothers him. This dude's got an ego. He really needs an ego check. But it does bother Morgoth that he wasn't able to get Turgon and really crush the line of elves for good.
Okay.
Because he knows that Turgon is a great warrior and leader, and it could be a problem someday, but for now, he's not too worried about it. But he does use all of his spies and beasts to try to find this hidden city of Gondolin. One last piece of bait Morgoth kind of takes to try to get Turgon is he takes Hurin, and he puts a curse on him and his kin, and he places him in a stone chair at the top of Thingardrim. And Thingardrim is so tall you can see the whole of land of Middle-earth from here. And he kind of makes Hurin watch as the lands and valleys of Middle-earth are turned to fire and ash. And to really put the cherry on top, at the bottom of Thingardrim, he has the orcs take all the bodies of the slain and all their weapons and piles on a giant pile. And this pile is so big you can see it as far as what is Minas Tirith in the Third Age. Like, that's how far you can see this mountain of bodies and weapons, and it's a horrible reminder for the people of Middle-earth of how many were slain in this battle. The only good note that really comes of this is that the elves do call this the Hill of the Slain, but as time passes, grasses came there and grew again, and green took over. It is desert there, so grass takes over the desert land, and no creature of Morgoth trod thereafter upon the earth, beneath which the sword of the Eldar and the Edain crumbled into rust. So a good little note, I guess. It turned into grass and took over desert, but
that goes with his theme of even in the trenches underground, stuff still grows.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a very Tolkien end.
It is. So a horrible battle, but very epic. I thought it was a lot of fun to read. But that is it for the great battle of the First Age, and this kind of marks a rough period for the elves and the men. as we kind of now enter what is essentially the dark ages of Middle Earth. And this is why I was kind of so shocked. I'm actually close to the end of the Silmarillion. I forgot how quick things turn because we basically now take a time skip.
Okay.
And we will meet a couple of characters that we're both familiar with. We'll meet Elrond, Galadriel, Thranduil, a couple of elves that play huge roles later in the Third Age. But now that most of these First Age elves are dead, it is kind of a time for a new era of men and elves, and we'll see characters that we're very familiar with to kind of take the helm of getting Middle Earth back in order. But for the next couple hundred years, Morgoth rules Middle Earth, and it is unfortunate end to the Battle of Unnumbered Tears. So yeah,
lots of tears.
A lot of tears. That's stunk for the good guys. I'll tell you that.
Definitely.
So very fun read. Go check it out. I really encourage it. It is chapter 20 of the Silmarillion. So give it a look-see. But I made it. I did it.
You did it. It was a good recap.
2 weeks of note-taking. It was a lot.
That was a lot of names.
Yes.
And then remind me who, I'm trying to remember who, and this might not be Silmarillion canon, I'm not sure, but in Rings of Power,
yes,
what's the human name that Sauron goes by? Isn't it one of these houses of men?
That's a good question.
Do we want to Google it real fast?
Yeah, I will.
Because I could have sworn it was either Halladin or Hador.
So here's what I will say. So you're recognizing the name Haldir. I actually want to talk about this. So Haldir is one of the great houses of Halladin.
Mm-hmm.
He was a king. I don't know if this is the connection you're making. So Haldir, the name in the Two Towers, the Battle of Helm's Deep, the elf who comes to help Aragorn, his name is Haldir.
Okay.
He's not in the books. So they just plucked the name Haldir from this.
Okay.
And gave it to that guy, that elf, because that elf doesn't actually exist in the books.
Okay.
So that is one thing that I was going to mention. I forgot. I'm trying to forget what in the show they gave, what name they gave Sauron for his secret name.
He has like a human name, and he says he's like one of the lost humans or whatever, you know?
Yeah, I know his... Oh, it's going to bug me, because I don't think it's lore. Because the one in the books is Xanatar. That's his hidden elven name. Because I don't remember... We may have to look into this. Maybe we'll talk about it next episode. But yeah, I wonder now if they're plucking that name from the Silmarillion then.
Maybe.
Because they definitely could be. But yeah, we'll look into it. Next episode, we'll give you guys an update of what we find there. But I totally know what you're talking about.
Halbrand.
No, it wasn't one of those. But okay. I wonder if in the show he mentions the lineage that he's from. Because I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I can see the scene where he says he's from a great line of kings.
Mairon is what it said. Mairon.
I don't think that was one of these, but it could have been. Maybe, again, we had a lot of names there, so maybe we got lost in the sauce there. But that's it.
Okay.
That is it for me today.
We ready to...
I think we're ready to shift to zip on over to the Westerosi.
Alrighty. Can I have a mouse?
Oh, yes, you do need that.
Thank you so much. Okay, well, welcome to the southernmost of the Seven Kingdoms. It is time to bust out that SPF 100 sunblock and some bug spray, because today we are touring the lands of Dorne, which are known for their sweltering heat, sandstorms, and scorpions.
AKA Illinois right now.
Right now, yes. No scorpions, though.
No,
we don't have those. So, yes, bastards born in this region take the last name Sand. Pretty fitting.
Yep, that tracks.
It does. Geographically, the vast majority of this region is inhabitable desert. This is the only desert in Westeros.
I need a tangent for a second.
Sure.
I feel like, now you may disagree, if you're going to choose a biome to live in, I would not choose desert. I feel like desert would be one of my last ones to choose.
Correct.
That's why I respect people who live in Arizona and
New Mexico
and can deal with that on a daily basis, because I need grass.
That is not my ministry, no.
I don't mean weed grass. I just mean regular grass. People, get your head out of the gutter. I need green. I need trees. I need fresh air. I need not sweltering heat. I need seasons. Like, as much as I dog winter, I kind of like winter.
No, I love winter.
For the first few weeks.
I love all of it. It's a time to hibernate and reset.
Yes,
I love
agree.
it.
I don't want to be sweating through my clothes every day.
No, fun Abby lore. I lived in San Antonio for 2 years and did not know until I lived there for 2 years that like your eyes can sweat. You can be so hot that your eyes
Are you
sweat.
serious?
Yes. That's
Oh my God.
the worst.
What's that part about Texas is it's humid down there too.
It can be. Yeah, in parts of it can be. Yeah, so anyway, all right. So we're in the
Shout
desert.
out to Dornish. Good for them.
Good for the Dornish. The rest of Dorne is rocky, mountainous, and dry. So to the north of them is the Sea of Dorne, and the Stormlands are beyond that.
They had a sea?
Yeah, there is like a little.
Well,
yeah.
All right, they get some water.
And then to the east are the Stepstones, which are a large group of islands that used to be the actual, like it used to be called the Arm of Dorne. I think it might still be called that. But it used to actually be connected land that connected Westeros and Essos together. But remember, the Children of the Forest, they broke the Arm of Dorne with all their magic because they wanted men to stop coming. So now it's like a bunch of islands called Stepstones. So that's that. And then the Narrow Sea is also to the east. To the south is the Sunset Sea, and then to the west is the Reach, which we were just at last episode. So separating Dorne from the Stormlands are the Red Mountains, and they are named that because the peaks appear to be crimson at sunset, which that might actually
be pretty pretty.
Kind of pretty, yeah. And there are 2 main passes through the Red Mountains. The first one is called the Stone Way or the Bone Way. They rhyme.
Sorry, I can't Bone Way. Okay.
That's the more treacherous pass. It's guarded by House Ironwood, but House Ironwood, the I is spelled with a Y. I'm not sure why.
I thought that was just a misspelling. That's an actual.
No, that's how they spell it. Yeah.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Ironwood.
Yeah. And then it's also kind of fortified by House Will. Remember, that's who one of the Baratheons they kept getting in fights. He was like Will the Widow Lover or something like that.
Yeah.
But the Bone Way leads to Summerhall, which is a place that I do want to revisit in a future episode, do a deep dive, because there's a lot of lore there. There's a lot of stuff that kind of goes down at Summerhall that we don't really know about. So there's a lot of fan theories and conspiracy theories and all kinds of stuff. But
I am a sucker for a good conspiracy theory. If it has validity to it.
Yeah. The other pass through the mountains is called the Prince's Pass, and it's a little bit easier to navigate. And the Tower of Joy is at the north end of the Prince's Pass, which is where the show told us that that's where Jon Snow was born.
God, it was that far south?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
That's why, remember in the show, Bran is like, his last name shouldn't be Snow, it should be Sand.
Oh, that's why he said that? Oh.
Yeah, which is dumb. Like, just
all right.
turning Bran into a human Google machine was dumb, but whatever. Anyway. Bran. So, because Bran is more badass than that. He's not.
I agree.
He's not a human Google machine. Anyway, okay. We're back. Sorry.
That's another episode.
Sorry. So the Prince's Pass is guarded by House Fowler. Interestingly, sprinkled throughout the Red Mountains are little valleys and meadows that are fertile. They do have some green, some stuff that grows, some little rivers and stuff. So that's why there are little pockets of people that live in the mountains. But those pockets of people are all pretty independent from one another because it's really hard to travel between the little villages and communities and stuff like that. So, but once you get to the foothills of the Red Mountains, all the way down to the southern shore, that's where your desert is. It's pretty much just like a wasteland. There's not really any settlements at all on the southern coast because the beaches down there are described as being full of reef and rock, and the waters have whirlpools, sharks, and kraken.
Kraken.
Whoa,
I didn't know those existed in this lore.
They do.
Oh, wow.
Yep. And then over on the eastern coast, there are several castles and towns, but there's no true cities in Dorne at all. There is a port called Planky Town. It's a fun little...
Planky Town?
Planky Town.
It's watch that SpongeBob or something. Let's go to Planky Town, Patrick.
Jellyfishing. It's a fun little place. It sits at the mouth of Dorne's main river. This river is called the Greenblood. And the town, Planky Town, pretty much just floats on the water. The streets are made of planks. The houses, halls, and shops are made from various types of boats like pole boats, barges, and merchant ships. And they are all tied together haphazardly with ropes. It kind of
sketchy.
It reminds me a little bit of, we're from the Midwest, so we go to like Lake of the Ozarks a lot, and there's this place down there called Party Cove where they tie all the boats together.
It's really Party Cove.
It's Party Cove. So if you haven't been to Party Cove on Lake of the Ozarks, give it a go.
It is. You have to experience it once in your life.
Just one. You only need to do it once.
Yeah.
You don't have to.
Once is good.
Yeah. But yeah, that's Planky Town.
That might be my favorite town in all of Game of Thrones.
All of Western. Yes. So, okay, one thing Dornishmen love to claim is that Dorne is the oldest kingdom in the Seven Kingdoms, and it's technically basically true.
So that is true, isn't it?
Yes, because when the first men came over here from Essos, they had to cross that land bridge between the two.
So they technically settled there first.
Yeah, so Dorne was technically the
Technicalities.
First. Right.
We'll give it to them. They got nothing else. They got the sand.
Right. So, but it wasn't really established as a proper kingdom until millennia later. But we're just going to go ahead and give them that one.
That's fine. They got it.
Once the first men got to Dorne, there was very few of them that actually stayed there. The ones that did kind of split off into 3 different factions, and Dornish people are still described this way today. There are the Stony, the Sandy, and the Salty.
Wow.
Yeah.
Tracks.
It does. So the Stony Dornishmen are the ones that live in the mountains. They tend to have lighter hair, lighter complexions, because they are descended from first men and Andals. So the Andals really found footing here in the mountains. That's kind of their jam, is mountainy regions. So when the Andals came over and started to try to conquer Dorne, they didn't really make it past the Red Mountains because they liked it there anyway. So the demeanor of the Stony Dornishmen is comparable to the mountain clans in the Vale. They're pretty hot-tempered. They quarrel easily, as easily with enemies as themselves, I guess.
Wow.
Kind of.
I do think we need to add quarrel to our vernacular more often.
Quarrel. Mm-hmm.
I need to settle this quarrel.
Yes. The Sandy Dornishmen are the ones that live in the deserts and the river valleys. They have darker features, supposedly because they've been burned by the sun for so many generations, but more probably just because they've got more Roynish blood than the Stony Dornishmen. They're pretty acclimated to the arid deserts. They have found ways to irrigate the small, teeny tiny little rivers that Dorne has to offer. And they're also the breeders of these famed sand steeds, which are sand steeds. These are horses that are extremely fast. They like don't eat as much as regular horses or something like that. That's what makes them faster. But they also can't carry very heavy loads. So it's like it's not recommended.
Give there.
Yeah, not recommended to wear your armor while you're riding them.
But it can carry a person.
It can carry a person, yeah. Just don't wear your armor.
So they just made camels cooler, is what I'm hearing.
Basically, yes. And faster.
And
then lastly, we have our Salty Dornishmen. They live on the east coast, and they're descended directly from the Roynish settlers. So they have olive complexions, dark eyes, and black hair. So, yeah. Here is where we're going to park our tour bus, though, and we're going to do a deep dive, because the Rhoynar people are the third major wave of people who migrated to Westeros from Essos, and they deserve a proper introduction, I think. So here we go. The ancient Rhoynar people lived in city-states all along the Great Rhoyne River over in Essos. Here are the 6 major city-states that you need to know about. They've got some weird names.
Oh, yeah. I'm good luck with this one.
Arnoi, which sounds like I'm annoyed.
Yeah,
like
Arnoid.
Croyan, I think. Goyan Duro, Nysar, Sarmel, and Sarhoy.
They love their wives. Okay.
So all of these functioned as independent states, but they were easily accessible to each other via the Rhoyne River. And then another thing about the Rhoynar, we kind of discussed it in previous episodes, but they are actually the ones that could be credited with teaching other ancient societies in Essos how to work with iron, specifically the Andals and the Valyrians. And then remember, the Andals tried to claim like the smith is the one that taught us. He's one of the 7 gods, and the smith taught us. But the maesters are like, no, it was the Rhoynar.
Yeah.
And then same thing with the Valyrians. They taught the Valyrians how to work with iron, but then we all know eventually the Valyrians kind of surpassed their teachers in their knowledge and started working with all kinds of other metals and magic and stuff. So
classic.
Yes. So the ancient Rhoynar were skilled at traveling by boat up and down the river. They had a rich trade culture. They referred to their river as Mother Rhoyne.
Oh, Mother. She's kidding.
Yeah. And she's basically like a goddess in their spirituality. It is said she would whisper to them when they were facing any type of threat so that they could, prepare themselves. They would use their water magic to defend themselves.
Are we sure they weren't growing some type of plant here?
There has been some evidence, we'll get to it in a minute, of the water magic that they could use.
Okay.
So the Rhoynar princes and princesses could ask the water of the river to rise up like a wall around their city and then fall down on any enemy that is trying to overtake their city.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's different from the magic used by ancient Valyria for sure. Also different, I think, from any of the magic that kind of gets hinted at in Game of Thrones.
I was going to say, this seems pretty powerful for Game of Thrones magic.
Because I think the magic everybody is fascinated with the most is the dragons and their fire. But water is technically more powerful than fire. Because water can put fire out. Fire can't put water out.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
you can make it boil and make you some pasta, but you can't destroy water.
Right.
That seems crazy powerful.
Yeah. So yes, which it's just kind of, I think it's interesting.
It is. That means their city is almost unsackable. I mean,
right.
Sure, you can fly a dragon in there, but still, you got to fight all that water.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So, and yeah. It definitely could hold its own against Valyrian dragons. We're going to circle back to that in a little bit. But Rhoynar culture is structured a lot differently than Andal culture was. So we've learned a lot about the Andals so far, so I'm not going to go back and talk about them anymore. But the Rhoynar have always practiced equal primogeniture, which is a fancy way of saying it does not matter if your firstborn child is a boy or a girl. The firstborn child is automatically going to inherit the family's land and titles and wealth and what have you.
God. Crazy concept.
Right.
We love a progressive kingdom.
We do.
Or peoples.
Yep. They've also always tolerated homosexuality, which is not something outright forbidden by any of the other cultures in the universe, but it's more so just looked down upon because what people do value is having an heir, and obviously if you're homosexual, it's harder to have an heir unless you're gonna adopt or whatever. But but the Rhoynar are chill with it.
Yeah, I like the Rhoynar. Maybe I like putting Y's in all my words.
Maybe you should. And then also just due to being a pretty big collection of city-states, they have always called their leaders either prince or princess, not king or queen. And that tradition is still continued in Dorne today.
Interesting.
So they're not the people like the Martells who rule Dorne. They are prince and princess, and the Targaryens are okay with that. They say.
Interesting.
Yes. Yes. So there are several gods and goddesses worshipped by the ancient Rhoynar people. The greatest was definitely the Mother Rhoyne,
giving,
who's always giving. And that some of the others, my favorite one is the Old Man of the River.
Oh.
Who takes the form of a giant turtle.
Oh my lord. Now we found my favorite deity. I am a Rhoynar man now.
Yep.
Maybe I'm coming around. Who's to say?
Well, you live on the coast, the East Coast.
Yeah, that's true.
Not on the desert.
Okay. I can live with this.
I don't know if listeners knew, Austin's obsessed with turtles.
I am. It is clear now, I think.
Yeah.
I am all in.
But this Old Man of the River, he is Mother Rhoyne's son. And he's constantly at war with the Crab King, who's another one of their gods. But
that's fine with me.
They don't like each other. And they fought over control, the Crab King and the Old Man of the River. They fought over control of, this is in quotes, all life below the flowing water, whatever that means. I guess like the fish and the plants and stuff, whatever grows under the water. But fun fact, legend has it that the long night was brought to an end when these two adversaries set aside their bickering and joined together in song.
A little Tolkienish to me.
It does.
Oh my.
It does. Nobody knows what the song was, but it did help bring back daylight and springtime and all the things.
Wow.
So I do feel like that could be foreshadowing for the upcoming battle with the others north of the wall in modern GOT. We're going to have two age-old adversaries join together to defeat them. I think that's pretty clear at this point. So let's switch gears a little bit. What drove the Rhoynar to leave their great mother Rhoyne? Well, it was a series of unfortunate events, basically. As Valyria to the south of them was expanding and began trying to colonize other areas, the city-states of the Rhoynar people were some of the first places that this started to happen. So these two powerhouses warred with each other for about 250 years before the Rhoynar were eventually defeated, and then they had to flee the continent altogether. So this is kind of where we get to see how they used their water magic against the might of Valyria. And they were kind of successful for a long, 250 years is a long time. So the last of these wars was called the Second Spice War. So there was obviously a first Spice War, and then there was some other wars in between there too. But the Second Spice War ends about 1,000 years before modern Game of Thrones.
Okay, we're way back.
Yeah. So during that Second Spice War, one of the great city-states, it's called the Sarhoy, we talked about it, this whole city gets destroyed by the Valyrians. And the response to that tragedy was that the other 5 major city-states joined forces under one ruler. His name was Prince Garin, and he was of Croyan. So he leads an army of 250,000 soldiers to battle.
God.
They utilize the magic of the water wizards. They shield the Rhoynish archers so that the archers could fire on the 3 dragons. That tactic succeeded in bringing down 2 of the dragons, and then it caused the 3rd dragon to flee the battle.
They are BA.
I know. So then they go on to conquer and destroy 3 of the Valyrian colonies. Selhorys, Valisar, and Volon Theris, which are unimportant because they get destroyed. But 3 colonies getting pretty much destroyed overnight was a pretty crushing blow for Valyria, and they promptly send 300 dragons to meet.
There's that many dragons alive right now?
Oh, yes.
What?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Oh.
So that proved to be too great of a foe.
I was to say, I thought bringing 2 dragons down was a big deal. That is but a drop in the water of how many dragons. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
So their army is crushed. Prince Garin is captured. Both Sarmel and Croyan are destroyed. And when Prince Garin gets captured, legend says that he cast a curse upon his homeland of Croyan. And that's the reason why to this day, it's still covered in this like strange misty fog, and it's haunted by stone men who are afflicted with dragon scale.
Wow.
So this is where in the show, Jorah Mormont is sailing with Tyrion. He gets bitten or whatever you want to call, I don't know, bitten or something when this thing with grayscale or dragon scale comes at him. And then Jorah Mormont comes down with dragon scale or grayscale, whatever.
Jeez.
Yeah. In the books, it's a little bit different. That happens to Jon Connington instead of Jorah Mormont. But Tyrion is still present when it happens. That part is still true. So I think it's going to, you know how then in the show Jorah went to the Citadel and Sam healed him and all that?
Mm-hmm.
I still think we're going to get something like that where Jon Connington goes back to Westeros and Sam helps heal him or whatever, but it's just a different character that it happens to.
Gotcha.
But yeah, okay, sorry. Quick detour to present day happenings, but let's go back to the lore. So Prince Garin is captured. His huge army has been defeated. And then Princess Nymeria of Nysar, she sees the writing on the wall. Valyria is coming for any remaining Rhoynar people and their lands. So Nymeria is described in modern times as kind of like a warrior queen.
Yes, queen.
And then in some of the songs, she's called a witch, but both of these are kind of inaccurate. She really didn't carry any weapons. She only owned light armor, and she definitely was not a witch. We know that. She was beautiful and smart and incredibly strong-willed, and we all know how the men of Westeros feel about women who are beautiful, smart, and strong-willed. So maybe that's why they started calling her a witch. Who knows?
Probably.
So she opposed Prince Garen when he originally came to the leaders of the other 6 great city-states, proposing his plan to attack the Valyrians. But she was the only voice in opposition of that plan. So she kind of just like went along with it, even though she opposed it. But once the armies are defeated and the survivors are enslaved, then she kind of jumps into action. She manages to organize all the remaining ships on the Rhoyne and cram them full of as many remaining Rhoynish people as possible. But keep in mind, most of her passengers at this point are women, children, and old men, because the young men have all died in battle.
250K of them just died.
Yeah. And the legend says that she set sail with 10,000 ships, but some maesters think this is an over-exaggerated number, but no official count was ever made. So what is true is that the vast majority of the ships were built for use on the river, not an ocean. So they're like skiffs, pole boats, rafts, fishing boats. Those are the most common. So it's not like these 10,000 ships are like these huge like galleys or anything like that. These are like river boats.
Rinky dink.
Yeah. Only 1 in 10 was really meant for sailing on open waters. So this made the journey treacherous at best. The first hurdle was getting out of the Rhoyne River and out into the sea. But they had to bypass the Valyrian colonies along the river. So to do that, they had to take this really old channel of the river, and this led out into the summer sea, where they promptly encountered a huge storm. And the storm sank more than 100 boats.
Oh my God.
And then about 100 more turned back out of fear, and then those were captured by the Valyrians. So no bueno.
No.
So her little fleet then kind of limps their way to the Basilisk Isles, which are way to the south. They stop there to get more food and water, but then they're attacked by local pirates. So that I know. So then they make their way to Sothorios, which is the southern continent in this world, and they actually settled there for kind of a while. But it proved to be a tough landscape for them to adapt to because it's jungle. So that's like you can't really navigate your way through it. There's no sense of north, south, west, east. There's all these wild animals that they're not used to dealing with, all kinds of stuff. So they set sail again, and they end up kind of just wandering the southern seas for about 3 years. They occasionally try to settle on random islands, but they never succeed. Nymeria loses more and more people and more boats along the way, but she finally makes the decision to turn towards Westeros, and she takes her remaining ships there. They land off the coast of Dorne at the mouth of the Greenblood, close to this castle called Sandship. And at this point in time, Sandship is the seat of House Martell. So at the time of Nymeria's arrival, Dorne is a poor land where a bunch of lords and petty kings are kind of bickering for control of small lands and rivers because it's not a very fertile place. So many of the Dornish viewed the Rhoynar as unwelcome invaders who should be driven back into the sea. But Lord Mors Martell of the Sandship saw an opportunity in the Rhoynar, and the singers claim that Lord Martell also lost his heart to the beautiful princess. So with many of her people trained in warfare, the Rhoynar added their strength to Lord Martell's own, which increased his army tenfold pretty much overnight.
I would take that. And
he marries Nymeria, and hundreds of his knights, squires, and bannermen started to wed all the women she brought with her, because remember, most of her passengers are women and children. So that united these two people by blood very quickly. And then the Rhoynar also brought considerable wealth with them. And they have artisans and armorers whose skills are far more advanced than those of their Westerosi counterparts. So to celebrate the coming together of these two peoples, Nymeria burns all of her Rhoynish ships and declares her wanderings to be at an end.
Nice.
I think that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
She's like, we're done
We're
with
here.
this. Yeah.
We're not freaking leaving.
Burn the ships. Yes. So she declares her new husband to be the Prince of Dorne, indicating that he was now in a secure enough position financially and militarily to put down any lord who might challenge him. And lots of them did challenge him.
Of course, as they do.
So these battles are now, in current times, they're now referred to as Nymeria's War, because Nymeria and Moors defeated every foe. They kind of just end up back to back to back champs. They send 6 different kings to the wall from other families, and then the last king kind of standing up against them was King Yorick Ironwood. Remember who the Ironwoods are?
Yes,
They're kind of
the Ironwoods.
He does end, unfortunately, he ends up killing Moors.
Oh.
And then at that point, Nymeria takes full control of the Martell army. This is, I think, where she gets her warrior queen.
I see.
Even though she wasn't really in the battles, she just commanded them. Yeah. So it takes her 2 years, but she eventually beats Ironwood, and then he bends the knee to her. And then she rules Dorne for the next 27 years at Sunspear.
Oh.
And 27 years in
Game of Thrones is an eternity.
It is, yeah. Sunspear is the new seat of House Martell. It was built up around the old sand ship. So let's talk about Sunspear real quick. It's unique. It's kind of fun. It's a walled settlement protected by 3 massive winding walls that encircle one another. They contain miles and miles of narrow alleys, hidden courts, and noisy bazaars. Then there's the threefold gate, which is where the 3 gates of these 3 walls are lined up one behind the other. So this, if you're trying to quickly get to like the castle, basically, you would take the threefold gate. Whereas if you don't mind winding your way through the little towns and shops and stuff, then you would go through the front gate. And then this takes you straight up to the Old Palace. The Old Palace is the original stronghold of House Martell, the sand ship, which is a really big castle, but it's ugly. Like, people don't think it's cute. It's big, beige. It's supposed to look like a warship, which isn't super interesting for a castle, I don't think. But now that the Rhoynar are there, there's new smaller towers sprinkled throughout the premises. So it's like this one big sand ship building and then all these cute little Rhoynar towers and stuff. So the 2 largest structures, which are the first things visitors see, are the tall and slender Spear Tower and the Great Domed Tower of the Sun. The Spear Tower is 150 feet high. It's used to house their prisoners. And then the Tower of the Sun contains the throne room of the Prince or Princess of Dorne. So they have 2 seats. One of them has the Martell spear inlaid in gold on its back, and then the other one has the Rhoynish sun. So I think that's kind of fun.
Makes it a little bougier.
Yeah. It really solidifies the union of the 2 people. But that's really all we get in the way of a description. So let's venture 3 leagues down the beach to the Water Gardens.
I like some of this.
Yeah, the Water Gardens. This is another palace inhabited by House Martell. We do get to kind of see it in the show a little bit. They go there for like a second.
To remind me, I don't remember it.
But this is 100% where I would rather be.
Yep.
Than
like
Sunspear.
Water and gardens. I'm in.
Yeah. It's described as being paved in pink marble. It's shaded by blood orange trees, and it houses dozens of pools and water fountains that can be viewed from above by lushly decorated terraces.
That's rad.
It was built later on, not when Nymeria was alive, but it was built by Prince Meryn Martell as a gift to his bride, Princess Daenerys Targaryen. Not the one we know and love, the one that she's named after.
That makes sense.
And it kind of signified the union of Dorne with the rest of the 7 kingdoms, because remember, Aegon the Conqueror, he never conquers Dorne.
Yep.
It's not till later, this time. So then Princess Daenerys, she starts this tradition of hosting fancy little play dates at the Water Gardens. with her children when they were young, with the children of other noble families, and then sometimes even the regular families. She would invite those children. But now it's a pretty standard practice that the younger members of House Martell spend the majority of their time at this palace rather than at Sunspear.
Sounds like a great place to be.
Yeah, it's fun. Okay, that was a fun little detour. Let's hop back to the lore real quick before we wrap up for the day. So Princess Nymeria ruled Dorne for, 27 years, outliving 3 husbands.
Oh, my lord.
And during that time, she survived 12 assassination attempts and 2 rebellions.
Oh, my goodness.
She also staved off 2 invasions from the neighboring Storm and Gardener Kings. Storm Kings would be Stormlands, and then Gardener Kings is the Reach. And then when she finally passes away, it's her oldest daughter who inherits her seat and her title of Princess of Dorne, not her oldest son.
Love that. See the progressiveness. I'm in.
Yeah. And it's not just because she was a woman and wanted to pass it on to her daughter. Her oldest daughter was her firstborn child. So that's
how it should be.
Yeah. So this really signifies the Dornish adoption of Rhoynish laws and customs, because we all know that everywhere else in Westeros would have passed over the daughter without blinking. So Nymeria's life inspired 2 books. One of them is called The 10,000 Ships, and the other one's called The Loves of Queen Nymeria. And then, of course, our girl Arya Stark names her direwolf after Nymeria.
I knew that sounded familiar. That makes sense now.
So I think that's a perfect place to park our tour bus for today. Thank you for touring Dorne with us. Make sure you get all the sand out of your shoes before you exit.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
Who knew the Dornish were so interesting? Because you hear them in the show, you're like, dunes, sand, whatever.
Right.
They don't have any lore, but they do.
Well, and for whatever reason, viewers of the show really hated the Dorne plot. So the producers steered way away from it, but they're kind of a pretty big deal in the books.
They are. And I wish they talked about it more.
Yeah.
I knew Nymeria sounded familiar the whole time. I couldn't pin why, but that makes sense.
She's the direwolf. The direwolf that gets away.
Yes. Lost but not forgotten.
Yep.
Well, that was fun.
Yeah.
All right. Well, fellow adventurers, I think that is a wrap for today's journey into the realms of Westeros and Middle-earth. We hope you've enjoyed journeying through the histories, mysteries, and fascinating lore of these worlds.
We'll return with insights, laughs, and maybe even some unexpected dragons of wisdom along the way. Next up in our Middle-earth adventure, we learn of the tragic story of Turin Turambar. Then over in the world of Ice and Fire, we're headed back to Essos for a deep dive on ancient Valyria.
And we encourage you guys to join our conversations on our Instagram at theloveof.lore. Share your theories, tell us your grievances, or just chat about how you discover these epic sagas yourself.
What's your favorite character arc in Game of Thrones? Or your favorite battle scene in Lord of the Rings? We want to hear from you.
Thanks for tuning in, and remember, the best adventures are the ones we take together.
We swear it by the old gods and the new.
Peace.